Alright, so welcome everyone to yet another random installment of a series that I'm kind of referring to from time to time as Toxic Tales in the Fog. So, or it's toxic, might be Toxic Tales from the Fog, but I was going to say in the fog because, yeah. So, this is a little thing that I kind of came up with one random day on stream because I was playing some killer, and unfortunately my stream had crashed while I was in the middle of a game. And I was doing a little bit of a thing where it's like, oh, I'll just exit out the game. I'll just quit out the match, just do a little DC, which I don't do often, or I hardly ever DC in the game. I was like, I figured maybe do that. Maybe I won't get any DC penalty or some kind, or maybe very little or something, but it was quite a lot. It was kind of hefty, even though I'm someone who doesn't really DC from a session, no matter if I'm playing Survivor or Killer. But today we're going to be talking about a little situation that happened during the last iteration of a game mode called 2v8. We're going to kind of refer to this little story episode thing, if you will, as tunneling in 2v8. So, for those that don't know, and I'm going to kind of break things down as much as I can. So, when it comes to tunneling in a game like Dead by Daylight, mainly the whole idea of it is a killer focuses only one player at a time until they're out of the game. So let's say, for example, here, like I'm playing Trapper, right? Like I'm playing Trapper, and I go up against someone I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get you out of the game, and all that. Like, go find them first, hook them once, and they get unhooked. I hook them, try to get them down, hook them again, put them on death hook, and then, if they get saved again, tell them, get them out of the game, so on and so forth. Now, this is one of those play styles that that can get like a lot of negativity. A lot of people will talk about tunneling and how it's a bad strat, like it's scummy and this, that, and the other. Um, but sometimes, like if push comes to shove, there might be those moments where you kind of have to tunnel in some sort of way. Now, 2v8. Excuse me. So 2v8 is a little game mode that this game has every now and then, where it's basically two killers against 8 survivors. Now, with this one, things are changed up a little bit because instead of using perks, you have classes for both sides. Um, for like survivors, you have certain classes you can be able to play from. Like, so you can be able to play as like a medic, you can play an escapist, you can play scout, just to name a few. And with killers, they get changed up a little bit, you know, to um, to supposedly like make them more playable or something like that versus what they would normally be in um, like a 1v4 situation. So like each killer might have like a certain little thing or two that they can do, unlike in regular 1v4, and then they have the ability to select a little class here and there. I think it's like from Fearmonger to Brew and a couple of others I can't think of off the top of my head. Now, with a game mode like this, there's going to be some slight changes. So, there are some maps that have been made to be bigger versus the normality of the maps that you would often see during a normal run. Um, instead of 4 gens, you have to complete 8 gens, which, trust me when I say, they can fly pretty fast. Um, and and instead of 2 exit gates, there's 3, and when I think it's down to like the last two survivors, there's going to be like at least like three hatches at most, to where you can be able to escape from them. To of course not be killed by the killer. So one random day on stream, I was just playing some TV8 killer because I wanted to try, do a little bit of TV8 action because I had my fair share of, like playing on the Survivor side. I'm just like, you know what? Despite how despite the Q, the killer Q times being a bit abysmal and all that, I'm gonna try, do some killer on stream, because want to try to do both sides and everything, right? Now, I can't remember what Survivor this was, but I'm just going around, just doing my thing. I can't remember if I want to say like I was either playing as Trapper or Wraith or something like that. I think it's like one of the two. 'Cause I was like wanting to. I think I was kind of like wanting to expand on trying different killers in that mode because not every single killer that's out is in this mode. It's kind of like a slow and steady process where when the mode comes out, there's going to be more killers that get added, and this, that, and the other. But yeah, I'm basically just doing my thing, and I managed to find someone and send them to the little cage thing, and they ended up dying. And I shit you not, not long after they had died and everything, um, I found out they were on PSN. Um, because for those that don't know, in Dead by Daylight, there is the ability to play in a cross-platform type situation. Now, when people are across platforms, we're like say, I'm on, like say like for me, like I'm on, console, and someone's on PC, right? You have that little world icon next to the name. But yeah, basically, this person, randomly messaged me while I was still in the game. It was pretty much, like bitching about saying like, stop tunneling me, go find someone else. Every time I get into 2VA, I'm always getting tunneled and stuff like that. And now, I can understand like, some frustration on that, but at the same time though, I have to say like, it's fucking 2VA, like 2v8 is probably the most chaotic mode that you could very much be able to play in a game like Dead by Daylight. Like Chaos Shuffle, yeah, it's like perks are always randomized and everything like that, but it's still a 1v4 situation. Same with like Lights Out or maybe like some sort of event thing going on, whether it be like from like Halloween or Christmas, or even like, the anniversary of the game or something like that. But yeah, I can understand some annoyances where it's like, oh, like I just got off hook, and all of a sudden, like a killer comes at me, and everything like that, and pretty much like gets me out of the game, and I get to do barely fuck all, after getting saved. Like I can understand, like I've been down that road. Like I've been down that road. I understand how it feels, but like some people just some people just don't seem to understand, how 2v8 can be. Like there's like I said, there's two killers and there's 8 survivors. So there might be that slight little chance of the killer, somehow finding you after you've done this, that, and the other. Like like I said, getting unhooked from the cage, and it's just so weird sometimes, and it's like, I think I can't remember what I said exactly, but I was pretty much just pointing out to them like, hey, this is 2v8, it's not going to be, like the most balanced thing ever. It's like it's going to be chaotic. You never know what's going to happen, and all that. But yeah, I just find it crazy, when you get messages like that. I mean, and I know that I'm not the only one who's had that kind of situation happen. It's like, I know that sometimes, other people who've played killer, they'll they're more than likely, be having some salt because they're like, oh, you only you came after me, and this, that, and the other. Now, before I end, I just want to put I just, before I end, I just want to put this out there and say that um, I know that the word toxic gets thrown around a lot and everything, and I know I could probably like refer to this as like something else, but I just go with the flow of the word toxic because there's a situation that pretty much happened like after a game was over for one person and or the other, and yes, I know there are far worse things that people have done or people have said, everything like that, but it still kind of falls on the the toxic entitled behavior, at least in my opinion. Now that old saying goes, like opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. Now, whether you can agree or not, like it's your call. But I figured I'd just randomly tell the story because, you know, I just figured like just doing a little random series of like the thing like this, and maybe try a little something different now and then. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the little story and everything. I know it might not be much, but I know I also have other ideas and stories I can tell as well. But that'll be for another time, one day down the line. So you never know when I might be like, hey, I feel like telling a story of some kind. But thank you guys so much for watching, slash listening, and until I see you all in the next video or live stream. Take care, everybody, and I hope you all have a good week or weekend.